Hello, good morning to all of you. I hope all of you are doing well. So in today's class, we are going to discuss about constructors and destructors. So constructor, as the name says, it is called so because it is capable of constructing the value of the data members in a class. Right, again I'll repeat it. Constructor is called as constructor because it's capable of constructing the value of the data members in a particular class, right? So a constructor is a member function of a class which initializes the objects of a particular class. So constructor is used in order to initialize the data members belonging to a particular class. Now in C++, constructors are automatically called when the object is created. So this is a very important point that you need to remember. In C++, constructors are automatically called when the objects are created. So it is a special member function that has the name same as that of the class. So this is a very important point that you need to remember again, right? Okay. So it is called so because it will construct the value of the data members of a particular class. So a constructor is a member function that initializes the object. It is automatically called when the object is created. It has the name same as that of the class, and it is used to construct the value of the objects, right? Again, that is the data members of the object. Now, constructor differs from a normal function in varied ways. First thing is a constructor has the name same as that of the class name. So whatever will be the class name, that will be the name of the constructor. A constructor does not have a return type. Okay, so this is very much important. A constructor does not have a return type. A constructor is automatically called when the object is created, right? And if we do not specify the constructor, the C++ compiler will automatically generate a default constructor. So this is a very important point. So it differs from a normal function in these very ways. So it has name same as that of the class. It does not have any return type. It is automatically called when the object is created, and if the constructor is not specified, C++ compiler will generate a default constructor for us. Now, there are certain characteristics of constructors that you need to understand. So, constructors, as I said, as we have already discussed in the previous class as well, constructors are automatically called when the objects are created. All the objects of a class having a constructors are initialized before they are used. Okay, so constructors are used in order to initialize the object. So these should be declared in the public section of the class so that all the function can have access to it. Right? Constructors are automatically called when the objects are created. Again, we are emphasizing on the same point. Then return type of the constructors is not present, so there is no return type. Or return type cannot be specified with the constructor. Constructors cannot be inherited, but the members of the derived class can use the constructors belonging to the base class. These cannot be static in nature, right? Generated constructors are public in nature, right? The constructors can also have default arguments. So we have learned default argument in the previous classes. So constructors can also have default argument, like any other C++ function. A constructor can call member function of its class, and we can use a constructor to create new object of its class, and constructor cannot be virtual. So this will come to discussion whenever we'll be discussing virtual functions later in the course. Okay, so these are a few of the notable characteristics. So here what you need to remember is you need to remember that constructors automatically called when the objects are created. Constructor is used for initialization of the object. It should be declared in the public section of the class so that everyone can have an access to it. A return type of constructor is not there. It's not specified. Okay, it cannot be inherited, but the members of the derived class can access the base class constructors. It cannot be static. Generated constructors are public in nature, right? Again, so we can have default argument in constructors. Okay, constructors can call member function in its class, right? And constructors can be used to create new objects and cannot be virtual. Now let's try to discuss different types of constructors. There are three different types of constructors. We have default constructors, we have parameterized constructors, and we have copy constructors, right? So let's discuss default constructor. So default constructor is a constructor which does not take any argument. Okay, so it's very simple. Default constructor is a constructor that does not take any argument, or it has no parameter. So just see here, I have a class construct and I have two data members, that is placed in the public section of the class. So I have a function by the same name as that of the class, so it's a constructor. So A is initialized with 10 and B is initialized with 20. So here I'm using constructor, a default constructor in order to initialize the values of A and B. So here I'm displaying the values of A and B. So I am declaring a object of type construct, that is C. So C is C dot A and C dot B will give me an access to A of C and B of C. So it will print 10 and 20. Now, even if we do not define any constructors explicitly, the compiler will automatically provide a default constructor implicitly, right? Now, next one is parameterized constructors. Now, it is possible to pass parameters to a constructor, right? So these are called as parameterized constructors. Typically, this argument helps to initialize objects when it's created. So to create a parameterized constructor, simply add parameters to the constructor, right? Okay, so those parameters can be used now to initialize the object. So it is used to initialize various data elements of different objects with different values when they are created. So it is used to overload constructor as well. So this is called as constructor overloading. So this we'll discuss whenever we'll be discussing overloading, right? Okay, please remember. So parameterized constructors are constructors with which what we have done is we have passed a set of parameters. These parameters can be used in order to initialize the object or the data members of different objects. Okay, so let us try to understand it with the help of an example. So here what I have is I have a class point and I have a constructor by the name point, right? So here I'm passing the parameters x1 and y1. x1 and y1 are used in order to initialize the private members of the class, that is x and y. So here now I have two functions, get x and get y. So it's capable of returning the value of x and returning the value of y belonging to a particular object. So here to see what I've done, I've used a parameterized constructor in order to initialize the values of the variables x and y belonging to a particular object. So just see what I've done is I've displayed the contents of x and y, right? Okay, so just see, this is the way how the parameter constructors are being called, and access value assigned by the constructors, right? Okay, so we are accessing the values assigned by the constructor. So whenever an object is declared in a parameterized constructor, the initial value has to be passed as an argument to the constructor function. Okay, so just see, whenever an object is declared in a parameterized constructor, the initial value has to be passed as an argument to the constructor function. So this is the way how it has to be done, right? Okay, so the normal way of object declaration may not work. So the constructor can be called explicitly or implicitly, right? Okay, so this is the way how what you can do is you can explicitly call a constructor or you can implicitly call a constructor. So this is the way how you can do it, right? Okay, this is the way how you can do it. So you have here, what you have is you have object E of class example, here is a constructor, right? Okay, or what you can do is you can simply have implicit call. So here in this case what we're doing is we're making an implicit call. So you can have explicit call or an implicit call. So again I'll repeat it. So whenever an object is declared in a parameterized constructor, the initial value has to be passed as an argument to the constructor function. The normal way of the object declaration may not work, and the constructors can be called explicitly and implicitly, and the examples cited here. Okay. So in today's class, what we have learned about is we have learned about what is a constructor. We have learned about what is the difference between constructor and normal functions. We have learned about some of the important characteristics of constructor. We have learned about different types of constructor. We have learned about default constructor. We have learned about parameterized constructor, right? We have taken up example in order to understand default constructor. Likewise, we have taken up example to understand parameterized constructor, and then we have learned about the different ways of calling constructor. So we can have explicit call and implicit call. So explicit call, so here example is a class, E is an object, E's example is a constructor. So here example is a class again. So this is a constructor call. So this is an implicit call, this is an explicit call, right? Okay. So so this is the way how you can use constructor in order to initialize the data members of a particular class. So in the next class, what we'll learn about is we'll learn about the remaining types of constructors and try to understand it with the help of an example. So thank you very much.